doesn't have the CCNRs, then that's where all these legal ones came from, for the most part, right? So, and then the other point, I guess, or question was that, have you thought about the fact that there's, from my understanding, almost 8,000 homes that are second homes on Maui that aren't lived in year-round? And how does that affect neighborhoods? You know, and how do you enforce that? How do you change that? You know, how do you decide whether those people have friends that visit, or whether they're doing illegal vacation rentals in some other manner which we can't detect? You know, so it's like this can of worms that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I understand that you have a job to do, and you have a concern for the neighborhoods and the people of Maui, but from our perspective, or my perspective, is that, you know, it's affecting me personally and our family and our children's future because of their educations, and this is how we pay for it. And so I guess those 2 points, that have you thought about those things being a factor in these supposed complaints that didn't come against legal vacation rentals but came against illegal vacation rentals?
There was a lot in that. So for enforcement, the law says that advertising is evidence of operation, and so that's what we use to enforce. And the properties that are second homes, that are used by friends and family of the owner, they don't advertise, so we wouldn't consider those to be a short-term rental, because they're, as far as anyone would consider, they're not gaining income off of it. It's the ones that advertise and that and
Is that all you
therefore
need
operate.
now? Is advertising?
Pretty much all we need is an ad, yeah.
That's great.
So that's why we have the contractor to do the internet searches on dozens of platforms. In terms of CCNRs, we don't enforce those. Those are private agreements among property owners, and we do know of cases where an illegal operator is either suing his homeowners association, or the HOA is suing them because of operating in defiance of CCNR. So it's not just zoning enforcement; they also have, you know, their homeowners association to deal with. So on 2 fronts, they're operating illegally. Yes, we're quite aware of the potential impacts this could have on operators and their employees. If we were to move forward with something like this, as Jackie described, it would be a long phase-out period, as opposed to, you know, the recent action on Molokai is the end of this year. As Jackie mentioned, it would be quite a number of years for a phase-out if we were to pursue such a thing. You had a question?
Yes. About 6 or 7 years ago, my wife and I came from Oahu. We were able to
Do you want to use that?
Okay. My name's Jeff. So about 6 years ago or so, we were able to visit from Oahu, and we probably would not have visited if, you know, it was going to be a hotel for us. We're the kind of travelers where we like to stay in people's homes and stuff. And what I'm wondering is, doesn't, you know, this kind of plan kind of cut out travelers like us?
It could, very well. It could, yeah.
Okay, so another question is a little bit more personal. We, you know, have since moved here. We were lucky enough to move to Maui from Oahu, and it was hard. And after renting maybe 10 places in the last 7 years, we, you know, were able to, by saving, you know, like that guy over there, we were able to purchase our own property, and it was hard enough to get a building permit. So right now we have a building permit, and we're going to develop a farm. But our long-term plan, you know, we would, you know, one of the dreams would be to have, you know, maybe a bed and breakfast one day. And if there is going to be some cap or some time limit for getting an application, you know, I don't really see that as a possibility. Is there, you know, any plans for, you know, when the cutoff time is, or how many?
We don't have any kind of proposal right now. So, I mean, that's,
I just wanted to
we
point
haven't
out too
gotten that far.
bed and breakfasts are not
Yeah, I was
any
gonna
part
say
of the
that.
discussion, and we don't get any complaints about bed and breakfasts. So I mean, that's not part of this discussion here and now.
We're not talking about phasing out or capping bed and breakfasts.
Yeah.
And what we are.
Yes, exactly.
What we indicated in that last slide is to in fact broaden what a bed and breakfast is, so that there is, some relationship of the operation to the community, as opposed to the off-island owners who may or may not have an active role in the operation. So, that seems to be, what bothers some of the community people that we've heard from, saying, I don't know who my neighbor is. They don't have an issue with bed and breakfast, because they know who their neighbor is.
When we came from Oahu so many years ago, we stayed in an Airbnb, and it was pretty cool. You know, it was on the road to Hana. It was in the middle of nowhere. It was an interesting type of trip, and you know, we wouldn't have had the same experience if the hotel. I hope that it's taken place.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a two-part question, if you'd permit me. Does the department feel like you've put your best foot forward in terms of enforcement against illegal short-term rentals? I know when the 2012 legislation was created, they were creating additional enforcement positions. It took a very long time for those positions to get filled. And I've seen a lot of enforcement against applicants who were applying during the process, looking at it, every little minute detail, but I've not seen nearly the effort put towards the illegal short-term rentals. It seems like we've come to a point now where you've got a contractor that seems to have their game on, and they're doing that. But have you really put your best foot forward in terms of enforcement against illegal short-term rentals?
I think we're doing the best we can with what we have. And what we have is somewhat limited. The council gave us 2 additional positions,
But those weren't even filled
Last
for a
time.
very long time.
where it took a very long time to fill those positions. So that's what I'm saying, we're doing the best we can with what we have.
I think that's true.
if
I
there's
guess
a
what I'm questioning
difficult-
is, has it really failed? Have we really let it run its course? Did you do the best enforcement you could have against the legal short-term rentals while permitting the legal short-term rentals?
With the resources that we had, we've done the best we could.
Okay, and secondly, I've prepared a lot of these applications for folks, and I've had a lot of people come to me and say, Nikhil, I'd love to do this, but I'm afraid that if we come forward, the county's gonna have our information, and that's gonna be used against us in case down the road they decide they wanna do exactly what you're proposing. And I assured them that, no, this is a process where we're trying to get everybody to be legal. You kinda have to have a level of trust with your public employees, and do you feel like this undermines that?
I could see how people would feel that way.
I think a lot of people really will.
Any other questions?
There's a couple behind you, Michelle.
I'm sorry?
A couple behind you.
Okay.
I just have a short request. If you do move forward with something like this, and the idea is to allow somehow people who are closely connected to their communities to continue to operate SRHs maybe in their new bed and breakfast regime, please don't make that decision based on the address that is on the SRH application. I live here full time. I pay my taxes here. My kids go to school here. I have a business address on the mainland for business reasons and its convenience. And we're talking about destroying my family's financial situation, and it'd be a real shame if that happened because I was using the address.
Thank you for that. Come back to you, Jason. Let's get to some people who have these questions yet. Go ahead.
In the fall, we introduced Bill 145 to bring the Hiker-Ray community plan in alignment with the short-term rental ordinance. A lot of people went to that meeting at the community center, and they were assured that they had existing permits, and although the cap had been reduced and the SMA was now not going to be permitted anymore, their permits would still be renewed.
No,
Okay.
no, this is just over the last, I don't know, month or so.
Well, you got it
Month or
together
so.
pretty quickly then.
I'm sorry?
You got it together pretty quickly then. Do you think it's good governance to 4 months ago tell people that their permits will be renewed and then now say, hey, maybe that's off the table?
I think it's, the process that we're following right now is good governance by having public meetings and meeting with stakeholders before any decisions are made.
Do you think, is there anything that we can do as a group of legal permit holders to help you see us more favorably?
I think, over the last, couple of weeks, we have heard, loud and clear how, the operators and related businesses feel about this proposal, and, that will, be a very big factor in having moved forward. And I, as I said before, I believe that we can, find a way in the future that can accommodate pretty much all the interests that have been talked about.
We follow your rules, we'd love to have you on our side.
Thank you. Terry?
Okay, so they passed a law to get people on board, and a lot of people at the time said, well, I don't know if I wanna get on board because then they got my name, and they know where I am. So some went that path, and a lot of people got on board. And then let's see, what happened next? Oh, the tax rate went up, yeah, substantially. And, let's see, what else? Oh, what I loved was the label of the tax rate went to commercial residential, so you can't refinance your house. And you've got no complaints, you had no complaints from your neighbors, either when you applied or since then. And it seems like this plan, and we've discussed it I've been with you on 3 meetings now, I think. So it seems like it's this equivalent of saying, you know, we can't quite catch all the speeders, so we're gonna pull all the driver's licenses because we can't get there. You can do more. I mean, you've got limited resources, I get it, but we're looking at it from the outside going, there's more to get there. And if the goal is to make people feel better about their neighborhood and who they see in their neighborhood, half of my neighborhood has changed. They're not short-term rentals. I kind of know them because we're doing koki frog spraying in haiku, so I met them that way, but it's not, you know, that's a natural evolution of what's going on Maui. And because they come into this room and say to the planning commission, gee, you know, I don't know my neighbors anymore. If that's what's driving this, I understand their feeling, but you're driving the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to penalize the people that went through every hoop it took to get the license, and now say, oh, we're gonna let it go, you're not gonna do it anymore. But we'll let some people B&Bs, a lot of houses aren't set up for B&Bs, unless you're gonna make a little apartment downstairs, if it was allowed by planning, and live there and rent out the rest of the house, because they don't have dual units. And you can't use a cottage anymore, right? So,
Did you have a question?
yeah, why? That's the one thing. But I want to know, why is it, do you really think it's gonna go? Because these people will get into a lawsuit about it. So let's not go there. Let's save some money and work on the enforcement.
I understand you don't agree, Terry, and I've answered that question a few times. I know you're not happy with the answer. I'm not gonna cancel this meeting. I'm not, you know.
No,
He has a
I-
right to be heard just like everybody else.
Of course he has a right to be heard, but I've answered that question tonight
We haven't heard
a
it,
couple of
we haven't been
times.
there, so it was nice to hear that.
I've answered it here.
Right, just now. We're hearing it for the first time.
Okay. Yes.
Well, just a quick question here, since we are dealing with a lot of data and numbers, okay, I don't like to throw out any kind of number as frivolous. So it sounds like you get a lot of people that have come to the planning department voicing that they don't know their neighbors, because this is a room full of people that are from different sides. Do you get a room full of people like this that say we don't know our neighbors, you gotta change the law? or is it just a couple of vocal people? I'd like to see some kind of data on that. I mean, if the one person says when it comes to legal rentals, there's, on record, there's a couple of complaints. Okay, but you said, but we get lots of complaints on illegal rentals.
Yeah, I was gonna correct that statement. When I said we get complaints about illegals, it's because there's an illegal operation, not that they're noisy or this or that. That, I was gonna correct that statement and I decided not to, but,
Okay.
when we get complaints about an operation, pursuing an illegal is one part of it, and then addressing
Well, sure,
complaints is a different one.
you brings forth action. You have to take action. Your responsibility demands it. So in this case, we have, how many people don't connect with their neighbors? That's a social issue, it really can be a social issue, and not a vacation rental. So I'm curious on that. I've got neighbors all around me, and we got some that we get, we talk a lot, and others, they just stay to themselves. So, how many people?
I don't have
Okay.
a hard number for you, but I can.
But enough to bring forth this legislation.
Enough we don't have legislation.
Well, this
Enough to
proposal,
have-
I'm sorry.
Enough to have,
This proposal.
enough to schedule the meeting to hear from interested parties.
Okay.
Enough to hear from people. Yes, Anthony.
My question is, and I have both sides of the package. I have beautiful people that do have short-term rentals within my area. I'm in Bahia. I live on the shore.
Are they legal?
Some of it is. But the one that I am fortunate to have, he makes it his priority to take care of the neighbors. So I know that there are good people out there. My question is, and I asked in the last session, how many of you are realtors that take care of short-term rentals for others, especially those that live away from here, that are not residents? We had a handful in the first session. Okay? How many of you have your homes that do have, but my question is, if it were to come to a reality, that we did somehow, it could be like 5 years, 10 years down the road, that the short-term rentals will be phased out. What will you do? Where will you get your money?
High long-term rentals.
Questions for me? Questions for me?
Long-term rentals.
Another question?
My question to you as a council is, are you willing to drop the changes and focus solely on what I'm hearing is the problem, are the illegals, the illegal rentals, and stop punishing those who are following the rules, right, as a board? And I have a kind of an issue with when you say if you've made money, and it's not a personal, I do not fall in that category, but if you're applying to become legal, and if you have made money illegally, back to his point, that how can you ever become legal? So I think as a council, you need to look at bringing those people into the fold because you have much more control. You're telling me you can levy these big fines. They're going to court. That's just costing all of us money. So why not bring them into the fold and make it so you can just yank their permits if they're not following the rules? Are you ready as a council to consider that and not this other craziness?
Okay, I'm not a council person.
Oh, I mean,
I'm
the board.
I'm the planning director. And your first question, we are continuing to enforce against the illegals. This is a separate effort from that.
I know,
and
I'm just wondering, are
that
you
effort
willing to
isn't going to change.
focus just on that? If you get enough community.
Well, we're not gonna focus just on that because we have hundreds of responsibilities, so, but our enforcement of that is not gonna change whether we proceed in any way with this or not. We have to continue enforcing against the illegals and we will continue to do so. The part about ones that previously operated coming into compliance, that's how the law is written now. that if you previously operated, you are ineligible to apply. That's in the law now, so we don't have an option. We as the planning department processing these permits don't have the option of saying, oh, it's okay, because that's in the law.
You answered my question.
Is there something? One sec. Go ahead.
We talked a little bit about the taxes that, the revenues that are brought in from all the taxes and the tax changes in the short term. Is there a way for you to provide to us where those taxes go, how they're benefiting our community, and what a difference it would make if it was not there?
I can say that the taxes go into the general fund, so they
Which go to Oahu?
No, the
and
general
on-
fund is
on
for,
Maui, okay.
is, yeah, so they get spent on Maui. And it wouldn't take much to put together what the, property tax revenue from the permitted short-term rentals is.
Is that something that we could see on a public website?
You can look at it now, the county's real property tax website, shows, a long history of what every single property,
No, but
not
I
just
mean a
short-term rental.
concise spreadsheet that acknowledges the amount of revenue that's coming in from
Right,
all the
that
folks
would-
that are doing short-term rentals.
That's something we would have to put together, but it's not difficult to do. We have not done that yet,
I would
but
be very interested in
that
seeing.
wouldn't be difficult to do.
Just a point to that, a big portion of the TAT tax does go to Oahu, but if you're talking of only of the property tax, but all the legal short-term rentals pay TAT tax, and then we get a percentage of that back.
So
But
there's
the-
a percentage of the TAT that also goes to support our community in Maui. And
100% of the property tax stays here, but a percentage of the TAT goes to Oahu.
I was just, it seems like the enforcement of illegals seems to be a big topic and kind of a push for what is needed. And you hired an outside company, from my understanding, to spend like $80,000 for them to find these illegal vacation rentals. During that time, I did my own search. I spent about 2 hours online looking, and I came up with about 75 properties. And a lot of them were advertising their permit number as a GE license or TAT license. And I don't know if your operation on the mainland is, checking that or making sure that, so they put a number there, that doesn't mean it's legal. So I'm wondering if you might need help in any way from people that spend a lot of time. My wife spends hours every day online, trying to optimize the representation on the internet, and she's coming across things all the time. Maybe you could elicit help from industry people that spend the time looking.
We have gotten suggestions, that now with the higher fines, kind of like Crime Stoppers, that if someone assists us in, collecting the fines against an illegal operation, that,
I mean, I don't wanna
They get
be
it.
a
Great neighbor.
rat,
They get
and turn people in, but I feel
they go
like
down to-
if
all
you're not.
we need is the website, so you can do a screenshot or send us a link, and we will enforce against that. That's all we need. That's all we need.
Michelle?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been,
A couple more.
It's okay.
go ahead.
It just seems to me that, because this is a planning department, that one of the first things you would do is to ascertain the tax ramifications to the county of employing this new into regulation.
That wouldn't be one of the first things planning does, but that is something that would need to be considered if we, decide to pursue, this idea. Absolutely.
Because the solution would have to accommodate the lack of revenue that you're gonna incur as a result.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I just wanted to say a little bit history in that, the council, I'm Yuki Sugimura, but the council, we hear complaints from people, and this is, and Michelle gets a lot of emails from my office, and concerns, and, but I will say that I bet you, most of you that are in this room are probably legal vacation rentals, right? Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here. And so therefore, I think that we're singing to the choir. And I wanna say that I hear, I go up Country Farmers Market, talk to you and some of the other, community members about how hard it is to get your permit, right? So thank you for that and for being legal, and it's the illegal ones that are the frustration for the council. So excuse me if you guys are sitting here saying, what are we talking about? I will tell you that in my term, cause this is my second term, but in my term, we did the 5 years, you buy a property, you have to wait 5 years before you can do, that law came. And the other thing that came last term was the charter amendment. Because of the frustration of the illegals, we said, okay, what can we do? Let's give the planning department some tools to attack this, because they had nothing more than, so we did the charter amendment, and you, the population, the electorate that voted, made it legal. It's $20,000 if you get caught, $10,000 per day, but because we're the United States of America, the planning department, even if they found 20 people or, vacation rentals, illegal ones, they're going through the process we're getting sued. So we are getting sued. You, the taxpayer, the county, the council, we're all getting sued by these people. So illegal does illegal and illegal. Frustration, right? The other thing that the council did was to give the planning department some tools to be able to find these illegal rentals, right? So we hired a firm to do the online searches, and they've been reporting back, and the planning department has been successful. I will tell you that I was surprised at how many illegals there are out there, or what they caught, and versus when they narrowed it down to actual permitted and non-permitted, the numbers were very different. So please bear with us. We are trying to solve a problem, and I believe that this discussion today is important, for Tamara and I to hear, because all of you in this room probably are legal. And you're probably very upset at us for having this meeting. Please do not be upset at Michelle, because she's calling this meeting, and I'm grateful for it, because we hear you loud and clear. When you come and talk to us at council, you have to do 3 minutes at the podium, and then the next person comes, and we don't get to question you, and you don't get to question us, probably not, but you can come to our offices and, talk to us. But today's meeting is very important, to hear your voices, and I appreciate this, so that we as council members know that there's legal businesses happening out there. I like to hear the fact that you try to keep your neighborhood safe, you try to keep your neighbors, or not having, wild parties, happening in your neighborhood, because we can hear it. And it makes your neighbors upset if you're doing something illegal. So I just want to speak up a little bit for Michelle and the planning department, because she's trying to do this to answer some general questions that are floating around in the community. I kind of give her credit for trying to have this meeting, because she's under attack. It's really not her, but it's those voices out there that caused the council to take a vote, which happened maybe 2 weeks ago. Molokai had 17 legal vacation rentals, 17. We didn't hear from anybody when we had a meeting in Molokai. I wasn't at that meeting, sorry. We didn't hear from a lot of people. We just heard from people who hated vacation rentals. The council did. And I know people are busy, so you don't want to show up at those meetings. And then we had the full council meeting on it. We had one person saying how good it was. Nobody else, and there's only 7,000 people in Molokai, not 160 like on Maui. But the voices were not heard, So to me, this meeting, as difficult as it is for you to sit here, and as frustrating, is so important to me to hear this, because you're expressing your love for the community, which I love to hear, how you try to follow the law, which makes us happy, because that's what we're asked to do in behalf of you, and
Pay lots of taxes.
All of that. There's TAT tax, there's GE tax, there's the real property taxes, right? And every level short-term vacation rentals, bed and breakfasts are higher. And there's a reason for it, because it's impacting the community, the roads, the parks and whatever. And so it's our way of saying, okay, visitors, if you're gonna be here, help us pay for the beautiful, lovely beaches that we have, the beautiful blue skies, the roads, we don't have enough roads.
Yuki.
I mean, all these things, hospital, we hear it all the time.
Yuki, can I give you some history? But before you and Tamara were on council, back when Dawn was there,
Yeah.
all of us came in and testified 500,000 times to get the law in place so that we could do this legally. So we've already done the education of the council, and now we're having to do it all over again. And part of the challenge that you're feeling from us is that we hear you guys saying, apples are poisonous, let's get rid of all the bananas. And that is insane. It is insane. And we also heard, just like it's been repeated over and over again, you guys have to be legal. You have to be legal. You have to be legal. We came forth and we were legal. And it's like telling your kid, tell me the truth. Did you steal it? Did you do it? Did you do it? And then when they say yes, you punish them. And it's just absolutely so frustrating, because we're talking about literally apples and oranges or apples and bananas. We're not talking about the same beast. So thank you guys for hearing us.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I wanted to come and hear what Michelle said and what the department said. Like, what is the purpose of this meeting? And I hear you asking the same question, right? So if the question that is trying to be answered is to get community input, if I'm getting this correct, community input, to look at the caps, we're not talking about eliminating, I think. Okay, so maybe I wasn't here at the right time on the meeting, but maybe that's an option because of our Molokai vote. I think maybe that's a ripple in the community.
Right. The other side of that is the taxes. When you take away all of the property taxes that we all pay, that money is going to have to be brought in from somewhere else, which is going to raise all the property taxes for everybody else, and all the long-term rentals are going to go up in price to accommodate that raise in taxes. You guys have unintended consequences of extraordinary proportions by phasing us out.
How many of the 17 on Molokai were from Molokai?
One was in Oahu.
So that's why they didn't show up.
I think there was that guy from Molokai that testified the last day.
Peter Fukunaga had a legal one. He's from
But I just wanted
Anyway.
to address the gentleman's point. That's what I was talking about, getting a true figure, because only the short-term rental home permits have permits. There's thousands that are legal by zoning, legal by conditional permit, legal by, there's so many different ways that I think, before we start talking about phasing it out, we need to educate, because when you're saying that you found 7 with only the GETTAT,
75.
75, sorry, that doesn't mean that they're illegal. That's the problem, and
Well,
that's.
if you're an owner of one of these and you went to the effort of getting this permit, you put your permit number on your ad. That's the first thing you do.
No, I'm saying that there's thousands of short-term rental units that are legal without a
No,
permit.
I'm talking about homes only. 75 homes in residential neighborhoods that did not put their permit number on
There's
the ad.
other ways
So-
to do it. There's planned development, like what Puamana is. There's residential grandfathered in.
I'm not talking
There's
about any of those. I'm talking about finding homes just like mine. That I was looking out there.
residential grandfather would be allowed. So I mean, I'm not even clear. I sent an email to Michelle the other day. Like, I'm not even clear of all the multitude of ways that people can be legal without a permit. So I mean, I'm for the discussion. I don't think it should have started so narrow as to eliminating short-term rental home permits. I think it should have started out with what is a short-term rental occupancy unit and what are the ways that you can be legal, because if us as decision makers aren't clear on that, then we can't make informed decisions.
From my understanding, the Minatoya list is about 8,500 properties, and it was any property that was rented as a vacation rental as a history before 1989. So basically, any property that was developed or built after that in an apartment zone district are illegal to do vacation rentals. That was my understanding. So it's pretty
There's
easy.
more than the Minatoya list.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
lot
That's
more.
true for apartment districts, but there are other properties, residential properties that are grandfathered in,
Okay.
separate from the mandatory blocks.
So I'm just trying to get a handle on all the ways before I make decisions.
Okay. Question?
Thank you.
Question, and just, I'd like to explain my situation to you. I was born and raised here. You could speak over there so I can see. There you go. I was born and raised on this island. My father vacation rents the house I grew up in. He can't be on the island all the time. He has health issues that take him away. When he was applying for his permit, he thought of getting a B&B, but because he can't always say he's a resident, always on island, sometimes he needs help, and also the parking situation. Those were the two things. He went with the STR. That is the only way he's able to go to the mainland and get the care he needs. So we've made that decision, followed your rules to what fits our situation the most right now. If you're gonna get rid of the STRH, are your B&B requirements maybe gonna take into those type of considerations? All of you.
That's, in general, yes, those were the kinds of situations that we would want to account for. Yeah.
I just also am saying it that way so you can understand, both all of you
I'm not
council
planning
people
on
there, that
You know, the STRH, that was never my plan.
that's what this meeting is for, so that's what got us here. So I just want to voice my frustration and heartbreak as someone who grew up on this island, just trying to stay, being able to live on the island. And that's how I afford to be here,
I
on
followed
top
the
of working.
situation from Tavares, Arakawa, getting legal. It was never my intention to phase it out. On Molokai is their own situation.
I'm not saying your intention is to you personally phase it out. I just wanted to educate you on another level of what's going on here. We're not all realtors. We're not all owners from the mainland. Some of us are people who grew up on this island, who have been here, maybe didn't grow up here, but have been here 40, 50 years. We're just trying to survive. As this community has changed greatly, you know, we all lock our cars now. We didn't used to do that. Society has changed. We all are evolving.
I don't own a short-term vacation rental, so I'm just gonna say that, but I love to vacation in lots of different places. And Maui County has some of the highest prices for hotel rates. And I called for a Kama Aina a couple weeks ago. It was $650. So I was hoping I would try the Grand. That was $550. And so, and realistically, I have a small halau and then our larger halau that we go with. Try to take a little huakai, which is a vacation to do cultural events, to the outer islands, okay, to the outer islands. And try to find a place. No halau stays in hotels, okay? And you're lucky if you can find an apartment complex in Hilo now and then. But in general, local people, if they have a larger group, which could be a little family of 3 or more, isn't gonna take 2 Grand Wailea units, 2 Kealani suites, the Ondas maybe. I mean, realistically, what used to be cheap was the Marriott near the airport, which is now 300 plus. There's nothing reasonable on this island. Cheapest thing might be Waikiki off, and even the off Waikiki is several $100s. So the balance that the planning department looks for is a balance of economy, of neighborhoods, but yet I have to hear a grand reason why those who are legal, who spent years, because it was years. I sat on the commission from 1995 to 2000 when B&B was made legal, and I've listened to every argument for short-term rental and the good arguments that allowed this law to come into being. But to say the words phase out is just frightening. They're not even saying how frightened, but it's a frightening phrase for those who have gone through extreme legal processes to become legal. So, but I haven't heard a magnificent reason of why anyone should phase out a legal vacation rental. I've not heard it yet, other than I don't know my neighbor. I've been in Kula, in my neighborhood for 33 years, and I kind of don't know 2 neighbors. I know most of them, but we don't eat dinner together. I don't know why. But so that, whatever weird reason that is not really a reason to bring punitive action upon those who are legal. I'm not legal, but I like to go places that have hana. I can't stay in the little hanakai. okay? I can't get 5 of those units. I need to find a legal little house that will accommodate more than 5 people. That's real for traveling all over the world. So for sustainable economy, for a permit process, the commission has a huge, monstrous job. I get that, and so does the council. But honestly, those that exist that are permitted, it shouldn't even enter the thought of any legal body, from the county council to the planning commission, to phase them out. That's, I have.
Thank you for your question, Alana. Jason?
Okay, I do have a direct question. That sustainability triangle, that was a pretty cool graphic. Now, we asked you about increase in housing prices, and you couldn't really show us a link between how these permits are driving up housing prices. You had a pretty decent argument about people wanting to know their neighbors. But with that sustainability triangle, the 193 short-term rental homes that have licenses on this island, how is that going to balance your sustainability triangle?
I can't answer that. Are there any other questions?
I mean, that was your argument.
So my understanding is that if there's another short-term vacation rental house within 500-foot radius, then it has to go before the planning commission in order to get approved. So wouldn't it make sense that the argument of, well, I don't know my neighbors, really can't apply to this kind of use, because essentially you guys get to say, like on the planning commission, to allow multiple short-term vacation rentals. I mean, essentially, any person on the entire island of Maui is only going to have one short-term rental vacation rental.
Yeah.
It's 2 that triggers.
Oh, 2 that triggers. Okay, so out of all the neighbors in the neighborhood, 2 that is within a 500-foot radius, which is the designation that you set out. So if that's not a big enough radius, then maybe talk about that. But I mean, isn't that good enough? Because if somebody's like, well, I don't know any of my neighbors, well, no, it would be 2 neighbors, and you theoretically would have lots of other neighbors in the neighborhood.
That's a good point. Do you have a question?
With the change of the, if you do this phase out and you change the short-term rental permits to B&Bs, if there's that possibility to transfer, will you look at the 500-foot radius? Because now all of a sudden that may not be allowed because there's too many B&Bs in that neighborhood already. And
Good point. We haven't gotten nearly that far yet. Just in general, the thinking was for a short-term rental to just convert over. So there wouldn't be a notice process because one's already permitted and it would continue to be permitted. So, but that's,
all right, thank
we
you.
haven't gotten into any kind of detail yet. We just haven't gotten that far with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I went to a conference in Amsterdam.
Can't hear you.
I went to a conference in Amsterdam in September, and the huge focus was sustainable, less carbon footprint travel. And I really believe that somehow the county should work with the Hawaii Tourism Bureau, because that is the trend. These young people, the millennials, the Gen Z, Gen X, they are not looking to travel and stay at big hotels. Their big keyword is experience. That is what they want. And we actually provide experiences, and we provide the most amazing aloha to our guests that they would never get at a big corporate place.
Thank you. So I don't, at this point, I don't know where this is going, and need to get with staff and go through the notes that we've taken at all the meetings that we've had. I would imagine if we do pursue anything, we would reach out to the groups that we have met with already. We would have another public meeting depending on what we decide to do. and send out press releases, put information on our website. So in other words, if we do take any steps from this, we will do our best to keep you informed so that you can continue to participate and let us know and let decision makers know where you stand. So thank you all again for coming out.